Merry Christmas Eve, you guys. I hope you all have a great one with your families. Today we're going to be making this farmhouse sign right here. I know I've been doing a lot of signs lately, but I'm doing this particular one just because my cousin wanted me to make it for her, and she gave me all of the items for that. So I'll let you know how much everything is, and that way if you want to do it you can too. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so everything you see here is what you're going to need to make this farmhouse sign. Like I said, my cousin gave me everything to make it for her. The only thing that is mine is the stain, the tape, the little sponge brush, and the pencil. Okay, so she bought this piece of wood from Walmart and it was about $5 or $6. She also provided these stencils from Walmart as well. And just have a pencil and sponge brush. The pencil is to trace the stencil wording, and just some regular painter's tape. And then my cousin also provided me with the Waverly brand chalk paint. I know it's hard to tell, but it is in ivory and the colored ink. And as always, the stain I'm using is the Mini Wax Wood Finish Jacobin 2750. Okay, so I'm just going to take the ivory paint and paint all the inside of this sign so it can have that pretty white creamy background. But I wanted to let you all know, depending on the stuff that you have to make this sign, that's how much you're gonna spend on making a farmhouse sign. So like say me, I have everything except the wood sign, so I would only spend about $5-6 to make something like this. So if you don't have any of these things and you want to make something like this, you go and buy like the stain and the paint and the brushes. Just think you can make a lot of signs for still an inexpensive price, because you'll have all the items and you'll just have to buy the wood piece. So I forgot to tell you guys, this wood piece is a 10 by 10. So the good thing is about me trying something like this is I can tell you my mistakes that I made making this sign. So as I'm painting the ivory paint right here, I should have taped it off and put tape. That way I wouldn't get the white paint on the side, because I'm going to stain the sides. Because when I do finally stain the sides, it doesn't look the same where the white paint is at. So you'll figure it out once I start to stain, and then I'll show you. That way you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, so I did 2 coats of the ivory paint and let it dry. Now I'm going to take my stencils and I'm going to put the M in the middle, right, about the middle, and trace it with my pencil. And the reason why I'm tracing it with my pencil is so that way I can move the stencil out the way and really look at it, so I can see how everything's going to be centered and make sure that it looks right before I actually paint it. As you can probably tell, maybe you can, maybe you can't, I had to erase the M and make sure it was all the way at the top. That way everything would fit properly. So I just erased it and then painted it over so you couldn't see the M where I had it before. So now what I'm doing is I wrote out what I am going to put on the sign on a piece of random paper, and that way I can tape everything off to see how it's going to look, make sure it looks right, and that way I know how I'm going to center it. So I just tape everything down and kind of mark the edges of the letters so I know where to put the stencil at. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put EST 1999. I didn't have any number stencils, so I had to kind of write out my own little numbers and trace it out. So once I know how everything's going to be centered, I'm going to go ahead and lay down my stencils and trace everything out, just because I find it easier to trace it out. And once I am finished tracing everything out, I can look at it, see how it's going to look. Then I'll lay my stencils back down again and paint everything. Once I have everything traced, I'm going to go ahead and take the ink chalk paint, put the M stencil back over, and then just use this spouncer type sponge brush. I'm not sure if I showed it to you or not. I believe that's what it's called, but it just makes it so much easier using this type of sponge brush when you are using a stencil, because the ink won't bleed through as much. Also, in order for this to work, with a stencil, you need to make sure you only grab a little bit of paint on your sponge brush, and even if you do have a lot on the sponge brush, just kind of rub some off. That way you don't want it to bleed through the stencil and then it'll mess everything up. I decided to cut out the letters from the stencils just because it was easier. If I used the big old stencil and laid it on top of this, it would smear the other letters. Once I have most of the lettering done, I don't obviously have a stencil for the numbers, so I had to get a very small paintbrush and very carefully paint this in. This was very tedious, but you know, in the end it came out looking good. My camera died at the beginning of painting or staining this part, but I just taped it off and I'm starting to stain it. Once I start painting it on the inside of the sign where the tape is at, like I said before, where I got the white paint on it, the stain will not cover it the same as it does on the raw wood, as you can see when it dries. But it's okay. I mean, you can let it dry and go over it again. If not, you can totally leave it like that. It's just up to you. So guys, this is how it turned out. I really like it. It came out so cute. As you can see, some of the stain did kind of bleed through where the white ivory paint is at, but that's totally okay. Remember guys, this is a DIY and it's cheap. It would only cost me $5. So I hope you all enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and then I will see you in the next video. Bye guys.